Good afternoon, delegates to the WorldDAB General Assembly. Greetings from South Africa. Today I'm had the privilege of being accompanied by Advocate Dimakatso Qocha, who is a councillor at ICASA, who will explain to us the process that South Africa has undertaken to develop policy and regulation around digital radio. I now hand over to Dimakatso. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn, and good afternoon to the delegates at the General Assembly. It is our pleasure to have been given an opportunity to come and speak as to what has happened in the South African environment in as far as digital sound broadcasting is concerned.
If you could perhaps explain to the delegates, where we are with licensing and the scarcity of FM spectrum and how digital radio will assist the regulator in licensing new players.
Thank you very much, Lynn. This has really been a long process. We started in 2018 when the authority conducted some international benchmarking exercises. We visited about 5 countries where we went to see what the countries have done in as far as the deployment of digital radio is concerned. And then that was followed by a publication of a discussion document, which took into account the inputs that came from the various countries. And the objective of the discussion document basically was to get some inputs from stakeholders as to what is it that they would like to see going forward in the rollout of digital radio services. And that process was then followed by the promulgation or the publication of a position paper. The position paper, all it does is to give the outline or the layout of how the authority will be licensing the processes, will be licensing digital sound broadcasting. And I think it was important for the authority as well in this process to take into account the policy direction that was published by the Minister of Digital Technologies, Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams. And we did take those policy directions into account. The policy direction was published this year in July 2020. And at this point in time, Lynn, we are ready to issue the draft regulations, which obviously will go through a public consultation. And we are looking at a reasonable time because legislation envisages a reasonable time within which stakeholders should be given an opportunity to comment on the draft regulations. And if all goes well, and unfortunately with the disadvantages that have been brought about with COVID, we are expecting that the authority would have published the final regulations by the end of the current financial year, which is around March 2021.
That's very encouraging. I think broadcasters are very keen, particularly new entrants. I remember the process of advertising the ITA for the last 3 FM frequencies in the larger cities. And if memory serves me right, there were 32 applicants and only 3 could be licensed. So that shows, I think, the appetite of people that see radio still as a future and that they would like to enter this domain.
Absolutely, and I think with the scarcity of spectrum, the FM spectrum that we know has depleted, it has become very important for the authority to explore other technologies that will then use spectrum efficiently. And I think to your point, there is still that demand, and I think we know as well that radio is one of the preferred mode of communication that at least the South African listener still depends on. So from a benefit point of view, from the authority point of view, we're envisaging that this process will open up competition because we're going to be licensing. Obviously, the incumbents will have the first preference, but then we are hoping that going forward, then we'll be able to open up applications for new entrants. And we're also envisaging that the quality of service, the quality of the sound, because we know that FM still provides good quality, but with digital sound broadcasting, we're envisaging a more enhanced listening experience, and there will also be a variety of services given that the broadcasters will have the latitude because we will be then licensing on a max basis.
I echo your sentiments of the importance of radio in South Africa. There are so many people, particularly in rural areas, that rely solely on radio for information. So it is a critical service to South Africa. Do you see the introduction of digital technologies coexisting with the present FM?
I think even with the countries that we've visited, Lynn, we've realized that it's still very important for FM to remain. And from the policy direction that the country is taking, the 2 services are going to coexist. up until there is a policy pronouncement that declares that FM shall be switched off. But I think for the near future, we are going to be broadcasting parallel.
Thank you, Dimakatso, for joining me. It's been a pleasure, and it's very encouraging as a broadcaster, the role that the regulator is playing for the introduction of digital radio in South Africa.
Thank you, Lynn. It has been our pleasure to have been party to this engagement.
Thank you, delegates. I hope you enjoy the proceedings of the General Assembly, and regards and goodbye from South Africa.